So Parabola is the next beer. This is roughly, it's under about 11%, 10.8% of what went into 16. You're probably all familiar with this beer. I mean, it comes out once a year. Russian Imperial Stout. This one has a starting gravity of 31 potatoes. It's a monster. And this one, it goes specifically into bourbon barrels for 12 months. And this is probably, we have a few of these beers have high bittering. Are everyone familiar with IBUs? You know, what it measures? I mean, obviously people who don't, I always think, okay, so if you want to give a perspective, you know, Budweiser's around 9 to 11, DBA is 30, this is 80. So, I mean, which is quite a quantum leap almost from 30. Because it's such a big beer, it doesn't really scorch your tongue. But this is just, you know, I said this beer really focused more on the stouts. And you know, the first one was the Merkin. And this is the next stout that went in. And I mean, what do you guys think of this beer? This is one of my favorites.
Yes.
Desert Island beer. Desert Island beer.
Really?
Oh, wow.
See, DDBA would be my Desert Island beer. I wouldn't be able to get up the tree to get the coconuts down. But yeah, this is so that you can see. I mean, if you taste this, it really, you know, this has definitely got a little bit more oomph to it. What I mean by that, more of a bite. There's some bittersweet chocolate. There's coffee. I even get a little licorice, like black licorice. Again, it's going to be a vintage. So at the Barrelworks, I sell 2010. Can't find any 2011 that's gone, and then 2012, and there's differences. I mean, I get people coming in, it's just like a wine. Wow, nothing beats the 2010. Okay. I mean, it's going to be slightly different from year to year. I mean, we can control the beer that's brewed, but once you put it in a barrel, you're going to start getting slight variation. The alcohol is going to change a little different depending on what was left in that barrel. Some of the bourbon barrels had bourbon in them for 5 years. Some of them had it in for 15 years. And I mean, it's always shocking to me how much alcohol, not just flavor components, but how much of the bourbon or brandy you can pull out of these barrels. It's remarkable. A lot of these beers that we're doing now, I've definitely done before, so we know what we're doing. And we may even tweak them. I mean, when we get to Bravo was named Bravo because we use Bravo hops. We don't use Bravo hops anymore. Since US Fog, we tweaked it. We like that better. So, you know, things change, but for the most part now, we kind of have an idea of what we want to put in barrels and we just do it. If we come up with something new, we might just do a little bit of it. And if we go like PNC, which we don't have here, unfortunately, because we did so little of it. And, you know, that's an interesting beer. But it was a very small, kind of molasses-like. This one is more lean and mean, and by doing that, you really pick up a lot of bourbon in this beer. But it's pretty high in alcohol. It's 13.4, and a little leaner in terms of the body. And what you get there is that, of course, it goes into both brandy and bourbon barrels. And what you get there is something that's lean and blends really well with some of these bigger, like, you know, double DBA is this sort of very big toffee caramel. This one's going to blend really nicely with that. Or with Sticky Monkey, which we don't have. That's big molassesy, big, you know, raisins, marshmallow. You know. This is a little leaner than some of the other beers in terms of body. But what that does is it really kind of teases out, not even teases out, it really brings out a lot of the bourbon qualities. And I mean bourbon, not just vanilla bourbon, it really almost has a booziness to it. And so this is an excellent blending beer. And that's really what this is designed to do. It's designed to counter some of the bulkier, bigger, more you know, like I said, Sticky Monkey would be an example. It's a great foil for that. In this case, this only made about 5.4% beer, but this makes an appearance in just about all. I think 12 and 14 are the only ones that didn't have. What I get from this is more floral. The winemakers love this because this is that nuanced beer that they could just layer right in there. In fact, I mean, this is only about 5.4% of this beer, but 15 was 11. We really liked it. They toned it down. But this is, I mean, this to me is very fun, honeysuckle. And yet this has been through brandy and bourbon barrel aged, but it has a whole different character. The nutty, coconutty is toned down. You know, the vanilla is there, but it seems toned down. It's got this very floral quality. This is, to me, is a really interesting beer. It's a fruity beer, the Helldorado hops. And I think it just has a lot. It's estery.
Yeah.
The honey. I think it's just because it's blonde, you don't have some dark malts overshadowing a lot of that it really comes through. So what we're missing, we didn't get a chance to do PNC. And if you had Wookey Jack, you're familiar with that, and Sticky Monkey. But other than that, you've kind of got a nice combination of the beers from heavy to an alcohol light to obviously light and just pale to dark. So, you know, probably a good time to bring out the 16. And there's something here. One of the beers, the PNC, was the beer that we that was aged in tequila barrels. And when you have that on its own, you can really pull out the sort of smoky agave. When this one warms up, you can tease it out, but it's subtle. It's interesting to me. Maybe it's just because I had it in here before, but I get the fruitiness comes through, and it finishes with bittersweet chocolate.
Yeah.
A really good thing. Almost, I mean, I have to eat was almost like a coffee bean, kind of that sharpness. Not so much coffee bean flavor, but that sharpness. I said, I think this one's going to last a long. That's the fun thing I think with these is, if you kind of drink it too fast, is, just starting to, especially a nice tulip, as it warms up, things just start to come out. We've talked about rum barrels. I'd love to do some rum.
Yeah.
Interesting to compare brandy and bourbon straight up. The brandy is much more subtle. It does depend upon whether it's American or French oak. A winemaker would tell you the difference between American and French is masculine and feminine. Those aren't terms that really mean much in brewing, but I know what they're talking about is that bold kind of lactone, coconutty vanilla is really up front in American oak and much more subdued in French. French oak has a lot more tannins. But in the brandy is just, I always thought brandy would have a ton of flavor. It's more subtle. It's there, but it's much more subtle than a whiskey barrel. And so I don't know, a rum barrel, I think most rums are just colored, but there's definitely these days with high-end liquors, there's stuff going through barrels. I think cognac would be fun, that's just brandy. Maybe try some grappa, but that probably just distill it. I don't think that makes it anywhere close to a barrel. That comes out the other end and, gets thrown into a fancy glass or a bottle. So that's, we're always looking for something. I think if it's something new, we would try it on a small scale just to see if we like it. We certainly in our wild beer program, or our live, we use wine barrels. We have barrels that used to have some very high-end Cabernet in them with some Viognier. We've thrown grapes into the barrels. And we're always welcoming in. The great thing is wineries, we don't want to talk about whether they have Brett. No winery ever has Brett in their cellar, ever. It doesn't happen. But then you'll get a call saying, hey, we got a couple barrels here, you want them? Yeah, we'll take them. We've created an environment, constant temperature. The only thing we don't have is we're putting in a system so we can play music for them. But we're trying to create an environment where all this microflora can survive. We need wild yeast, lactobacillus. We don't really work with pediococcus, but it's probably coming into the barrels. And for lambics, that's great as long as you don't get too much diacetyl, because pediococcus can do that. But we also, we manage our own yeast. We don't use a lab. We often will get yeasts from a lab and mess around with them, but we manage our own yeast. So we have several strains of Brettanomyces. We have some strains that are really a cocktail that has both Brett and lactobacillus, and we've been able to isolate those two and keep them. And we'll put those in some barrels. Like some of the barrels that come out of our union system don't have Brett, so we need to get it going. We need to jumpstart it. So we'll get it in there with an inoculant. So we'll do inoculations and put them in the barrels. And sometimes even if they already have something that came in, and let them duke it out. So I say it's a cage room. We welcome it. The issue, if you look at these, most of these beers aren't huge on the hop side in terms of aroma, with the exception of Wookey Jack, which was in this. Wookey Jack is double dry hop. It wasn't intended to go into a barrel, but we always throw out a few beers that are not barrel aged out there, just to kind of, you get this heavy beer, and maybe you want to kind of balance it out. The problem with hops, I mean, when you oxidize alcohol, you get these really nice port sherry-like quality. When you oxidize hops, you get cheese and vomit. And so if you noted, some of these beers would be high if they were lower gravity. For high gravity beers, they're bitter, but they're not dry hopped. Most of these, we're not looking for a hop aroma so much, because I mean, we're gonna have more luck aging a beer that's high in alcohol. It has a big malt base. Those flavor changes, that maturation is gonna be more positive than if you age in oxidized hops. So the Wookey Jack in this is 4.5%.
Okay.
It's just a little hint of it gives a little bite. I don't know. I would like to. That doesn't mean it's gonna happen. That's not my call. Probably not. But I mean, who knows? I mean, 5 years ago, if you told me we were going to bottle double DDBA, or even, I mean, the beers that have come out of this program, there was no master plan to this. There's never been a master plan to this. We just, as brewers, Matt just said, let's do it. I mean, and literally the owners at first said, stop doing it. So that's what the cat and mouse. At that time, there was no place. The spirit barrel was like something tucked in a corner. And shit comes at them, and it would get moved over here. So until they finally caught up with it, and it was allowed, and it was a very small scale project, so we could do something with it. And then the first thing to do with this, its original plan was to make this anniversary. We didn't even know the anniversary was going to go to 11, 12, 13, 14. It's just that 10 was so successful, and it was so much fun. And let's do it again. Let's do it again. And now it's got legs. And then the abacus is set. Let's really set on its own. People, we've gotten a lot of good feedback on this, and we can do this on a scale where we can do a little bit. And then Parabola, and double DBA, and now Merkin. So these are things that just sort of sprung legs and kind of gone off on their own. But there really wasn't. There was no master plan.